Hey, this is Jim. Welcome back to Silent Sales Machine Radio. This is one of those episodes where we turned on the video camera. So if you're listening to this right now, not on YouTube, but just listening, you should know that in the show notes today, there's a link where you can watch on YouTube. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hey, thanks for hanging out with us here. You need to know that most of our episodes are audio only. Meaning if you only watch us on YouTube, you're missing about 90% of our podcast episodes. In either case, you need to get over to silentjim.com/podcast, and you can see all of our audio episodes or see the YouTube link for some of the episodes like this one. Today, we're going to meet Mr. Aaron Walker. He's a friend of mine. He's been a mentor to me. He's a guy who's launched multiple successful businesses. And he's a guy who, if you recognize the name Dave Ramsey, might be interested to know that back before Dave Ramsey, the number one or two most listened to talk show host in the United States, radio talk show, he's got a top show. But before he was known, he formed a mastermind group with a handful of other guys. And Aaron Walker, our guest today, was one of them. And he tells that story a little bit. And that's actually the topic of our show today. I love the power of masterminds. In an episode not too far from this one that you're watching today, I actually interviewed a guy who was in the only mastermind I ever launched, and he's gone on to become the number 4 best-selling grocery product on Amazon, and he credits a lot of his success to that mastermind. So I love the concept of getting together frequently and regularly with the same group of people, sharpening each other, sharing ideas, having someone that you can bounce ideas off of. It's a beautiful thing. And if you're not doing it, you really should be. So that's one of the things I'm going to talk about with Aaron today. He actually has some training that he's developed to help you form a mastermind and even monetize it if you're interested. And this is also a great chance for me to let you know, and this is the only time I'm going to mention this today, but I want to let you know we're forming our own mastermind group. This is the second time I've ever done it. In 17 years, I've only done it one other time. And like I mentioned before, several success stories popped out of that small group, but we're doing it again. And you can go get the details at provenmastermind.com. That link will be in the show notes with today's episode, provenmastermind.com. You can get some details on what we're shaping out, sign up, say if you're interested or not, and see if it's something that appeals to you. But I'm excited to get our guest today. He's launched so many successful businesses. He's a great family man, raised an incredible family. He speaks from his heart with a lot of authenticity and transparency. I think you're going to be really inspired hanging out with Mr. Aaron Walker today. So let's get him on the line. Well, hey, Big A, my friend Aaron Walker is on the show with me. How are you, my friend?
Hey, Jim, man, I'm doing really good. Thanks for having me on today.
Always so good to spend time with you, even if it's in front of a few thousand of our closest friends today. And you and I go back a good ways, but I think I'm just going to pass the ball over to you and tell us what you're working on, what you're excited about, where life's taking you these days. You've always got great stuff to share.
Well, thanks, Jim. I appreciate that. You know, we're celebrating our 41st year in business this year, so we're really excited about that. We are the host to Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind. We have 15 groups to date, represented in 9 different countries. We have 3 groups that we just launched for women, and so my daughter and my wife and another lady is heading that up, so things are good. And we've just released the Mastermind Playbook that we've been working on for about 18 months now. And that's taken the vast amount of our focus and attention. And we're so excited today to share just a little bit more with you about masterminds and the place that can serve your audience.
Yeah, just to remind the listeners, we're going to be talking about, who needs a mastermind? Should you start one? And if either one of those questions are bouncing around in your brain, Aaron's the man to help you navigate that. That's why we've got him on the show today. Listeners have heard me say many, many times, you've got to surround yourself with other like-minded people that can challenge you forward. You can bounce your questions around. It's one thing to be part of a large active Facebook group. That's good. But maybe we can start there, Aaron. What's the difference between being in, let's say, an online community of people that you can, bounce similar challenges off of? And there's some good camaraderie there. And I certainly love our Facebook group. But what's the difference between that and then maybe jumping into a mastermind group and Talk to us about that a little bit.
Sure. Let me go back about 2 decades and give you context first, Jim, if I could. So back in the early 90s, when I had a bricks and mortar location, I went to Luby's Cafeteria to a Chamber of Commerce breakfast. And there was this guy there teaching us how to get out of debt. And I thought, well, this is pretty interesting. So I went up and introduced myself afterwards and met him and told him who I was and told him I just built a new bricks and mortar store about a mile from there. And I invited him down to check it out. And he did and fell in love with it. And he said, hey, I've started a new radio show here in Nashville, Tennessee, and I want you to be one of my sponsors. And I started laughing and I said, there is no way. I don't even know you. Like 30 minutes ago, you didn't even exist in my world. And now you want me to sponsor your show. He said, I think it's going to be amazing. And I think this is just the kind of location I would like to advertise with us. And I said, well, tell me what you're offering. And he told me, and I said, no, I'm not interested. He said, what if I give you a week free of advertising? Every day on my show, we'll do a live spot and you can have a free week. And I thought, well, I can't lose on that. I'm an entrepreneur and I know if I'm not paying anything, I don't have anything to lose. And so I agreed to it. He gave me a week free. Well, that was my first encounter with Dave Ramsey. Dave had just started the money game here in Nashville, and I'd never met him before up until that point. So we built a relationship over the years, and I spent 21 consecutive years advertising and sponsoring his show. Well, a few years after that, I was at a Mercy Me concert in Nashville at the Curb Center, and I got up at intermission to go get some popcorn and a Coke, and Dave Ramsey got up in front of me. I didn't even know he was sitting there. I said, I didn't even know you were going to be here. And he said, yeah. He said, it's a great show. And I said, yeah, you're right. So he said, hey, I've been meaning to talk to you about something anyway. And I said, yeah, what is it? He said, I want you to join my mastermind group that I'm starting in my office. And I said, join your what? And he said, my mastermind group. And I said, Dave, I don't even know what a mastermind group is. And he started laughing. He said, just be at my office Wednesday morning, 7:00. I'll introduce you to the people that we've invited. I'll tell you, Jim, to be truthful, I didn't want to go. I was like, I don't have a clue what I'm getting involved in. So I go, I sit down, Dave introduces, Ken Abraham and Jeff Mosley and our friend Dan Miller and all these guys sitting around the table, like 10 of us. And I'm like, I'm nervous. Like, I don't know any of these guys but Dave. And so we started talking. And so week after week, we met for an hour and a half, and these guys were vulnerable. They were transparent. I could see the authenticity coming out. And I'm like, I've never been involved in anything like this before. And so I started opening up a little bit. I thought, what the heck? If these guys are opening up, I'm going to do the same. And then I started hearing stories about trials they were having in their marriage and with their children and in their businesses. And I thought, these are all successful people. I didn't realize they had trouble in their life. I'm not the only one dealing with these issues. So I started sharing, well, I won't take you through the whole journey, but we spent the next 12 years every Wednesday morning for an hour and a half in Dave's office. And it radically transformed my life in every area, personally and professionally, because what it taught me to do was to drop the facade. I could be big A in there and honest, and I could be vulnerable about everything that Robin and I were dealing with in my businesses, the struggles I was having. And it was a safe place. I had trusted advisors that were non-biased. So now for 20 years, Jim, I've been in a mastermind group every week for 20 years, and it's just radically transformed my life. I wanted to give a little background so the audience that's here today would understand my passion about mastermind groups. The difference in being in a community, it doesn't allow you to drop that facade. We have this veil that is up because we want everybody to think we've got it all together, right? We got every answer. We know everything.
Especially in social media.
I know, right? We're all heroes on social media. We all look great. We're on the beach and we're working the 4-hour work week and everything is great. But in reality, that's just not true. In reality is we all struggle. We have family issues. We have business trials. And this just allows you to subject yourself to the scrutiny of other people that are non-biased and they're non-judgmental. There's no condemnation, and you're able to be yourself. And that is the vast difference in being in a virtual community, just where there is those parameters are not allowed allowing you to do that versus being in a virtual mastermind group or an in-person mastermind group that allows you to really let people peek behind the curtain.
So it was that initial experience you had with Dave Ramsey and our good friend Dan and those guys that kind of inspired you into studying the impact that being a part of a mastermind can have on anyone's life, right? Is that what launched you down this road because you saw the
Yeah.
positive impact?
Well, see, here's what happened was when I was in business for myself, I was very fortunate and cursed. It depends on how you look at it to start my first business at 18 years old. Well, I didn't have anybody to help me make those decisions. I was like, I don't know whether to go left or right here. And I don't know whether to leverage myself. I don't know whether to open the next location. I had nobody I trusted in a community that really knew my background. And these guys started saying, hey, isolation is the enemy to excellence. If you really want to propel your life to the next level, you've got to subject yourself to people that can see you differently than you see yourself. They encourage those superpowers, but they point out the Achilles heel and the blind spots that can protect you long term. And man, listen, I so invite that constructive criticism now. It has saved me so many times from making a boneheaded decision. Jim, you're like me, we're entrepreneurs. I have 10 ideas before I get out of the shower every morning.
Exactly.
And when I'm able to go to a group and start laying it out in all the details, they go, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Or they go, Big A, hold on. Tell me again what you said. And I tell it, and they say, have you thought about doing this? Have you considered doing this with that idea? And now we've got something that's in the incubation stage that we can get beta testers and we can look at. But see, when you're alone, everything sounds great to yourself. And this has just helped me in so many ways in my personal life and professional.
Yeah, it helps you know. There's so many times where we don't know what questions we should be asking, and I know that I did this business as a lone wolf, probably the first 4 or 5 years, and I was just not that I actually made a conscious decision, but I remember processing it this way. It's like, well, the internet's here; I can communicate with anyone. So I'm just going to plow through. And if I have a question, I'll jump on some discussion forum somewhere and ask my question there. And I'm just going to make it happen. I'm going to do that. That's lone wolf though.
Yeah,
If
see,
you're
the
not
problem
interacting,
is they don't have context to your situation. See, they don't know your habits. Floyd Dawson really did a study on me because I go to him all the time. It's a guy that helps me. He's a counselor, and he helps me really understand myself. And he said, what's interesting about you is you do something big every 3 years. Well, see, if people didn't know that, they didn't know I sold something or bought. We've owned 14 businesses in the past 41 years. And he said, you're a creator developer. You're not a maintainer manager.
hmm,
And if you don't have a challenge before you at all times, nothing is going to keep you there. No amount of money is going to keep you there. And he uncovered something that I wasn't aware of myself. Jim, I'll tell you a funny story. Robin and I got into a really bad argument about 6 months ago. It was bad. We've been married 40 years this coming June. So we're not going anywhere. We love each other, and it's been amazing. Well, I fight just like you do with your wife and everybody else does.
sure.
And so Robin walked through the kitchen, and I was writing thank you notes, and it was 8:30 at night, and I was sitting at the table, and she looked over her glasses at me, and she turned around, walked off, and sat down on the couch. She didn't say a word, and I could feel the tension with a knife, man.
You
You
were in
could have cut
trouble.
it. I was in trouble. So I put all my stuff up, put it in the briefcase, went and sat on the couch. Well, there was this 30-foot wall between us, man. I could feel this thing. We talked a little bit and, went to bed and got up the next morning. I kissed her bye and I leaned over and I said, I'm going to see Floyd today. And she said, why? And I said, well, I would have been better off if you'd have gotten on me last night, but you didn't say anything. And when you don't say anything, I know it's bad. And I said, I know I'm working too much. And I said, I'm going to go talk to Floyd, see if he can help me. So I go to Floyd, sit down, talk to him. Floyd said, Abram, let me give you the good news. He said, the good news is all the businesses that you've started have been successful. He said, the bad news is all the businesses you've started have been successful. And I said, what do you mean? He said, you're working hard now to maintain your reputation, and you'll work twice as hard to do that. You would have been better off to have 2 or 3 good failures early on, and you wouldn't be working this hard to protect your ego and your pride.
Wow.
And see, I didn't know that I was doing that. That's the benefit of the mastermind group. That's the benefit of surrounding yourself with competent people that can help take you to the next level. And I went home and told Robin, I said, this is exactly correct. This is why I'm doing this. And it heightened my awareness. I was able to fix it and get on a good path. See, guys, when you don't have anybody and you're in that office and you're trying to make these decisions, it's just difficult to do it alone. And perspective is the best things that masterminds can bring. You only have one filter, one life experience, but there are many other ways to do what you're trying to accomplish.
That's right. I mean, the Bible says within the first few verses, man was not made to be alone. The first time God said it's not good. Everything else he did was good, 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 good. The first time God said, now that's not good, was when man was alone. And it's not because men need women, although we definitely do, Big A.
Sure.
It's saying none of us are designed to go
No.
through life by ourselves. Male, female, young, old, we just can't. We actually torture the most hardened enemy soldiers by just putting them in a box and not telling them how long it's going to be before they see another face. That's a form of torture, but we do it to ourselves as entrepreneurs on purpose. What are we thinking? I mean, you can drive yourself nuts, but you take the opposite of that and, hey, surround yourself with people you can be accountable to, be intentional about it, get the right people in that group who have like-minded value set, but come from different perspectives. Suddenly you're
Right.
talking about something pretty powerful that develops.
Yeah, here's the thing is that our ego and pride disallows that happening oftentimes because we want the other person to think we've got it all together. And let me just tell anyone that's listening to my voice right now, none of us have it all together.
Nope.
None of us. And we need help. God designed us to be in community. And we can get so much more done together than we can apart.
Yeah. And life has seasons and ups and downs and trials and things. And you're going to be very grateful that you have a group of people around you that you can lean on when those times hit. Well, let's start talking some specifics for people who are saying, hey, okay, this is resonating with me. I'm not doing enough of this. What solutions do we have for people? I know you've got some solutions. I've got some solutions.
Sure.
A good starting point is go to live events. I know you've got them. I've got them. A lot of other great people in this industry. There's good events. Just go and don't go and sit and take notes. Go and have conversations when you go to these things with the intention of creating relationships that you can get into these close relationships. But how do I go from just being a guy who kind of randomly attends events into maybe being a little more intentional about this and connecting with a group in a mastermind? Maybe it's one of yours. Talk us through that path.
Sure. First of all, I'm with you 100%. Years ago when I started this business, I would go to Podcast Movement and Social Media Marketing World and PodFest and, ClickFunnels and all those things. I would go to all these events. And Michael Stelzner with Social Media Marketing World walked up to me one day when I was at Podcast Movement, and he looked and he said, "What are you doing here? You don't even have a podcast yet." And I hugged his neck and I said, "I can't do this sitting at home on the couch."
That's right.
And he started laughing and he said, "Me too." I said, "The magic happens out here in the hall when we're drinking coffee together and we're having this time that we can interact and we can get to know each other better." And so that's just what it is in masterminds, but it's on steroids, right? It gives you an opportunity to be around people. And you pointed out something earlier when you said you want somebody with the same core values. And you've got to have somebody that's got the metrics by which we can measure what success is and what significance is. And we do that through our core values. So it's really important. If you have different core values than other people, your mastermind is not going to be very successful. And so I would just encourage you to really dive into making sure that the groups that you're getting involved in, you're headed in the same trajectory with the same core values. The thing that really adds the most value is the different perspective. A lot of people do mastermind groups that are industry specific, and I think that's amazing. And you can get so much accomplished. But a lot of the times, Jeff Hoffman, those that know who he is, Jeff started Priceline.com. And I talked to Jeff at an event he spoke at, and he's a multi-billionaire today, and he's had several very successful businesses. And he said, 10% of everything I read has absolutely nothing to do with anything I'm interested in. He said, but what's ironic out of that is the vast majority of the big successes I've had have come out of that 10%. You see, that's the way I view mastermind groups. You don't know what you don't know and you don't know what you're missing until you get around other people with a different perspective. And so I want to be a listener, right, in the group. And I want to be the person that's really soaking it in, but I want to bring value also. See, we really enlist givers, not takers. You see, when you're in a room full of givers, the natural reciprocity, everybody wants to give. And I turn people away very much of the time, most of the time, when all I hear is, what am I going to get out of it? What's the average income of the person in the group? Who do they know? And I'm like, hold on, let me stop you. You won't be a good fit for our group. And I turned down a guy recently, and he couldn't believe I turned him down. He said, I've had all these multi-million-dollar businesses. And I said, all you're interested in is yourself. You're not interested in the other members of the group.
Wow.
So go slow when you get in these groups. You really want to think through it. You really want to check out the facilitator or the host of the mastermind group. Listen, you don't have to join one of my groups. Jim has groups and other people have groups. There's amazing groups out there today that you can get involved in. You can get in local groups. The only problem that I've found, Jim, quite honestly, the virtual groups seem easier and they're easier to get involved in. And what we have found is people become a lot more transparent and vulnerable faster virtually. And here's the reason we discovered why. When you're in a community group, my wife and your wife, Jim, play tennis together, right? I'm hypothetically stating this, and you may question whether you can be totally vulnerable with me because I may go home and tell Robin, and then Robin goes and talks to your wife about it when they play tennis together, or your banker is in the group and you may have a financial issue that you want to talk about. You really don't have the freedom to do that because your banker's in the room. You can see how that these interactions can get construed if you're not careful. So what we have found, and we're in 9 different countries now, what we have found is that there's no travel time. You can sign on your own for 1 hour. And you can say anything you want because you're not doing business with the people in there on a regular basis in your community. Our wives are not playing tennis together. And it allows you a very safe environment. And that's what we need. See, because if you're not totally candid with me, if you're not really telling me all the facts, I can't give you good advice. Because that one more piece of advice that you just, or that one more ingredient that you just said, changes everything that I would say. So we've got to get to a posture of authenticity and vulnerability, or people can't help you.
Yeah, and you expressed in a recent conversation we had, people just want to feel like they can be heard by someone who understands what they're saying. I would add on, as entrepreneurs, it's a very isolating thing. And you need either I've got a good handful of groups that I'm a part of, some paid, some not, but I've got the local group of guys that attend the same church. We own businesses, we're going to get this mastermind. You and I have been in masterminds together.
Sure.
It's not like finding that one perfect group, but you do need to find a group where you speak the same language. It's speaking to an area of your life where you can be vulnerable and you can be heard. Because there's so much that I think as these independent-minded entrepreneurs, and we want everyone to think we're awesome, but there's very few places where we can go and be truly vulnerable and be understood. So often it's not our spouse because they're kind of done with the 1,000 ideas a day, right?
Right.
At times, you need to get into a group of people where they speak the same language.
Sure.
It's invaluable. I know it's taken my business. Each time I've been a part of a group, I've met people and my business has expanded and grown in new directions every single time. You have to carve that time out because there's no instant return on investment for this kind of thing. You can could I put $1,000 into this mastermind? Am I going to get 50,000 out? Do the math that way. But those relationships do lead to more money in the bank because you're improving as a leader, improving as a business person, right? So you've seen those positive ROIs, right?
Your biggest asset are your relationships, hand down, without a question, is those relationships. I'll give you an example of something that happened yesterday in one of our groups. We have an accountability tool. It's a digital tool that we fill out every single week. There's 10 questions, and you rank yourself 1 to 10 for every question. New guy joined about 6 weeks ago, and he was in the group, kind of quiet, getting used, understanding the terrain that he's dealing in. And he scored low in one of his numbers, and I was facilitating this group, and we'll call him Billy. I said, Billy, what's up with this 3 on this 1 to 10? And he said, well, things are just not going quite like I like them. And it was his relationship with his wife. And I said, well, tell us more. And he was very hesitant at first. And so he went ahead and shared a little bit more. Well, you know me, Jim. I didn't quit there. I kept digging. So finally, we ended up spending the entire hour. And the truth of the matter is his marriage is right on the brink of disaster. They've been married 15 years. And to his own admission, he said, I would have never brought this up in here in a million years had that accountability tool not been there, because I didn't want to lie. But you guys are started digging. And he said, he's almost emotional. And he said, the truth is, I have nobody to talk to about this.
Hmm.
So we helped him. We worked through a number of issues and got him involved in some counseling. And he texted me later in the day. He goes, now I get it. Now I get it. He said, I understand the value. That's just one tiny example of tens of thousands that I could share. Business the same way. People come in there and they profess that they're doing certain things in their business. And then we discover shortly thereafter, they don't even know how to read a profit and loss statement or a balance sheet. They really don't even know the nuts and bolts of their business. And then we get them help and we say, hey, you need to meet this person. They can help you understand this. Then we can start tracking your business in a very positive, professional way. And so other addictions that people are involved in, there's situational with relationships with children that people deal with. A lot of people are wanting to take their business to the next level. And what got you here is not going to get you to the next level. So you need people to surround you to go, hey, let me introduce you to this person that can help you take your business to that level. Jim, it's just every area of our life that the mastermind can help you on. And I'm pretty passionate about it. Obviously, I wouldn't be involved in it to the degree that I am. I wouldn't have gone to a meeting for an hour and a half every Wednesday for 20 years, a dozen years, whatever the case may be, if it wasn't valuable, because I'm busy. I have a lot going on, but I protect that time, and it has helped me immensely over the course of my life.
Well, I think you're speaking. I know these are things that you share frequently, but I don't hear you share them frequently. And I think we're touching a lot of people's hearts right now with what we're saying. So thank you for speaking, not just business, but you can't succeed in business if you're not healthy in the other areas of your life. And surrounding yourself with people who can help recognize those areas of need, building true relationships. And, I've been doing this long enough now, Aaron, that I never dreamed, but we're seeing, marriages happen. We're seeing partnerships form and people launch
Sure.
incredible businesses together. And
Sure.
and I feel like if I had to boil all down, I only had 30 seconds on stage. I had to TED talk like, hey, here's what I have to offer. It used to be, I'm the guy that can teach you how to use the internet creatively, and here's the tricks and strategies. And we're still better at that than anyone, in my opinion. But the true power of the foundation that needs to be under all of that is relationships. And we're talking like people who truly know you, that you connect with. You've given them permission. They've earned permission.
Right.
Ask you those hard questions.
Right.
So many of us don't have that. So we're talking about solutions in that area. And I think some people are going to listen to this podcast episode, Aaron, and just go out and make it happen. And
I hope
you and
so,
I will
Jim,
be like,
because their
good
life
work.
will change, right? It will change. I'll tell you a quick story related to that helped me, and I don't mind sharing because people that are in our community and in our masterminds, they know that I'm very transparent. And I almost lost my family several decades ago because I was so involved in chasing money.
Mm.
I was very blessed early on to start our first business at 18. I retired at 27 years old. I'd sold out to a Fortune 500 company. And I don't say that boastfully. I almost say it the other way. The reason being is because I became very arrogant and I was cocky and I could be condescending as a result of it because I thought, poor kid from Nashville makes a lot of money, retires at 27. And I thought, well, I can do it again. Well, some guys started coming around me and sharing a little bit, saying, hey, I'd be cautious with this or that. So when I got in the mastermind group, I had this dark time. Jim, I don't know if you've ever experienced a really, really dark time in your life, but this was a point in my life I'd never been. And every week I would go to the mastermind group and I would talk about it. And I couldn't get over it. I just couldn't shake it. I just was in this valley and I couldn't get over it. So I was at the Ace Hardware here in Hendersonville, Tennessee on a Saturday morning, and the phone rang, and I looked down, and it was James Rowell. Some of you may or may not be familiar with that name. He was a Promise Keeper speaker, traveled all over the world speaking, and he was in our mastermind group with Dave Ramsey. And best storyteller I've ever heard in my entire life. This guy was amazing. Had been in prison. He told the story about being in prison. Well, he called me and I looked down at the phone and I knew one of two things. This was going to be really good and I'm really excited, or it's going to be really bad because we didn't bother each other on the weekends. So I looked down and I answered it, and James Ryle said, "Hey, Big A," he said, "if you got a minute." And I said, "Yeah, hold on. Let me go out in the parking lot. I'm inside. I can't hear very good." So I went out in the parking lot, and I could tell by the tone of his voice something important was going on. And I said, "Okay, James, I'm here." He said, "I was reading this morning in the book of Isaiah, and God gave me a word for you." And I said, "Okay, what is it?" He said, "It's time to take the chains from around your neck and move on." And I sit there and I didn't know how to take that. He said, "Can I be very honest with you?" And I said, "Sure." He said, "You're wearing the hell out of everybody in our group." And I started laughing just like he did. I started laughing. Well, he didn't. He
That's
just sat
blunt.
there. And I said, "Excuse me?" He said, "Do you realize how sick we are of hearing you talk about this same issue week after week, month after month?" And I didn't know what to say. And I said, "James, I'm sorry. I don't even know what to say." He said, "It's time you were moving on, my friend. I'll see you." And he hung up. Well, Jim, I wanted to bite a nail into. I was so mad that this guy had called me that I'd been with for years. He called me and upset me on a Saturday. So I calmed down. The next Wednesday, I went in Dave's office and I walked around the corner. And I'm a big guy, Jim. You know I'm a big guy. I'm 6'4", weigh 235. Well, James Ryle's about 5'6", weighs about $150, right? He's not very big. So I walk up to him and he told me later, he said, "I thought you were going to hit me." And I hugged him and tears were running down my eyes. And I said, "Thank you for loving me enough to tell me the truth." Jim, it changed the trajectory of my life. It got me off of what I was dealing with, and I decided to pull myself up by the boots and move on. See, if I hadn't invested all those years, he wouldn't have earned the right to tell me the hard things. So things may be going right for you today, but if you can hear my voice, you're going to have trials. You're going to have times in your life where you're going to need those guys to embrace you and edify you and encourage you. But if you don't invest the time now, they're not going to be there when you need them. So I just want to tell you, whatever it is, whatever it takes, you need to be in a group of people that can speak that kind of truth into you over the course of your life.
And not to open up a whole new, this could probably be a whole podcast and we need a female on here to handle it properly. But I think as guys, we tend to fall into bad habits here by default.
Yeah.
Ladies got this down. They've got
Sure.
their crew.
Sure.
Right. I mean, most women, most healthy women that I can think of off the top of my head, they've got their crew that they can be very blunt with, very open with. They go to the bathroom together. Right.
Sure.
I mean, it's like,
Sure.
come on, they've got this stuff down. As guys, we struggle with it more. We have to be more intentional about it. Our default setting is, I'm going to pull up my own bootstraps. And I love that you used that phrase because that popped in my head. But you wouldn't have pulled yourself up by your bootstraps if he hadn't hit you upside the head with a 2x4 first.
No.
Right. And he had to earn the right to do that.
Yeah. And it's only by being in the group for years that he was able to earn the right to say, "Hey, dude, you got to get on with your life." Yeah. And he said, "I nudged you." I said, "Nudged me? You pushed me off the dadgum cliff. What do you mean you nudged me?" But I needed it. See, I needed it. And then, Jim, you know the story of when I ran over and killed a pedestrian years ago. It's been 19 years ago now. But if I hadn't had people around me at that time, I still would be under my desk in the fetal position, not working through that. And guys, we got to have people around personally and professionally to help us work through these situations in our life.
That's right. Let's start giving people some specifics. And I'll go first. And I want to hear from you. And I want now, there'll be a link at silentjim.com/Aaron with 2 A's, silentjim.com/Aaron with 2 A's. And that is Aaron's training. And he's going to tell us a little bit about it here in a couple minutes, where if you think, I would like to start a mastermind, maybe you're a leader in some capacity, and you want to start a paid mastermind or just learn how to have a mastermind, Aaron will tell us some of the details here in a minute, but we've got a special deal set up for you over there. You can see a really cool video Dave Ramsey did, by the way, on that page too, talking about Aaron and their relationship. And just, I've always been amazed by all the quality people that came out of that. This is back before Dave was anybody. Nobody knew who he was. He was passing out free advertising on his radio show. So I love the history there, but it's cool seeing Dave. He's the probably second or third most listened to radio talk show host in the world, or at least in the U.S.
Second. He's on 800 stations now.
Yeah. Incredible influence. And it was an honor to have him. He endorsed one of my books, man. I couldn't believe it. And that's Dan Miller, our buddy, pulled some strings there. And when I actually finally got a chance to meet Dave, I said, "Hey, thanks for thanks for giving me an endorsement and a blurb for the back of my book. And he's like, now, who are you again? I'm like, Dan Miller's friend. He's like, okay, I know who you
There
are
you
now.
go.
Like, it wasn't anything I did. It was just, again, it's the network, it's the network.
Dan's been my coach, right, for 20 years. I love
Right.
that guy. He's been my mentor. He's the reason I'm even in this business today, because 8 years ago, I retired. I said, I'm done. And Dan Miller leaned over the table and he goes, that's the most selfish thing I've ever heard you say in my entire life. And I thought, what are you talking about? He said, you've been married 30 years. You've had a dozen businesses. You need to teach and train and coach. And he's the reason that I even started this business. Yeah. Listen, I wouldn't have got that, and I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't been in a mastermind group.
And I'll take it. I'll take it a few steps further. He may have saved your life too, because statistics tell us, these guys who retire in their 40s and 50s and think I'm just going to play golf and buy the toys I want to buy. Yeah. Those guys die young.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I need to give him another hug for saving my life. You're right.
Yeah, he probably did, and that's no joke, man.
Yeah,
because the statistics tell us that retirement is a scary, dangerous place to go. The minute we stop serving others, we become we start feeling useless inside, and we wonder why. Sometimes, as a culture, that's a dangerous goal to have, is retirement.
Let me tell you a little bit about this playbook that has been absolutely a blast for us to put together. So when I started coaching 8 years ago, I only were going to coach 2 people. That's it. I was going to coach 2 men, and that was it. Well, I started doing podcast interviews, and my business just blew up. I couldn't handle all the one-on-one people. So I thought, I'm going to start a mastermind group because I know how to do this. I've been doing this for years and years. So I started a mastermind group and filled it up instantly. And I said, well, I'll just do one more. I did one more. And then I kept doing podcast interviews and got on Pat Flynn's show, Smart Passive Income. And I filled up 2 groups in a 30-minute interview. And I went, dang, I'm on to something. And so I kept doing the interviews and kept filling up groups. Well, here we are today with 18 groups, And so I thought, I'm going to turn this into a business. And I thought, well, I can't coach all these people and coach all these mastermind groups and facilitate all of them. And so we started training people to lead the mastermind groups, facilitate. So one day people started paying attention about 3 or 4 years ago, and they started calling me saying, how are you scaling these mastermind groups? And so I started telling them what I was doing, and they said, would you teach me? And I said, sure. And then I thought, I don't really want to do that. That's going to take a lot of my time. So I thought, well, I'll run them off. And so I threw a big number out there, and they said, where do I send the check? And I'm like, are you serious? And they said, yeah, man, you're scaling these things, and this is going to be a very profitable venture for me. And so they started paying me this crazy money to coach them. So one day my COO walked in my office, which happens to be my oldest daughter. She runs our company. She said, Dad, why don't we create a playbook and teach other people how to do this? So I started mulling that over, and I said, I wonder what that would look like. So we hired a company to come in and help us kind of set the framework out, and started looking through it and praying through it and thinking through the value. So we got our whole team involved. And so it took us almost 18 months to completely work through this. And I leave no stone unturned in this playbook. And the reason that I do this, people say, this is kind of crazy you doing this, because what you're doing is building competition for yourself. And I said, well, you have the wrong mindset, because I have an abundance mindset. And the more we share and the more we teach, the more awareness it brings to Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind Group. We're having people now join our group because we're teaching people how to do mastermind groups. And I said, listen, I've got a sphere of influence, but I can only touch so many people. You're a leader, and you've got a sphere of influence that I'll never come in contact with. So let me teach you to start and grow and scale your own mastermind groups. Well, the beta testers that started doing this started filling up their groups while we were in beta test. And I started laughing, and I said, this is going to be so much fun. It was a lot of work, don't hear me wrong, but we created 30 videos and 90 worksheets and tools in 11 different steps. And we start you at the beginning asking, why do you even want to build a mastermind? We work through that. And then we identify your ideal audience and how to focus on mastermind groups as a whole. We go through the programming and creating the right content mix that you need. We teach you how to fill the masterminds. A lot of people say, it's a great concept, but I don't know how to fill it. It's a lot easier than you think. And I teach you the strategy, what to do to fill your groups. We teach you how to organize and then streamline your promotional calendar. And you're like, I don't even know what a promotional calendar is. And we walk you through that. I teach you the things that we've done. The podcast interviews, I've done over 1,500 in the past 60 months. And we lay out the framework and we teach you how to become a guest on podcast. And we show you exactly what you need to do there. We do a high-touch onboarding process. It's a course within this playbook that teaches you how to onboard people properly. We give you white-labeled lead magnets that you don't even have to create the lead magnet. You can put your logo on it, and you're set up with a personal assessment. What do I want? Steps to a productive day. It's the way to attract people, and it's already done for you. We give enough content, the book questions, and the theme for you to run your mastermind group for 30 months. Every single week, we give you enough content to lead the group. Minute by minute, we lay it out what to do. We teach you how to build a directory. We teach you how to do all your marketing. We do live events. We do 2 a year. And we teach you in there how to put on your own live event. We even have in there the expenses for running the live event. We have a pro forma calculator that you can put in. Listen, here's what's cool. Here's what people love. 2 mastermind groups with 10 people is a 6-figure business. You run that group, it costs you an hour of your time virtually. Now, there's more time involved, obviously. I don't want to make this sound like, oh, man, I invest. That's not the case. It takes time to set it up. But we developed all the systems and processes that you have to do in order to start, grow, and scale your mastermind.
And I've been through a significant portion. I'm not all the way through it yet because we are shaping out our own mastermind. There's actually several different processes we're launching right now, including one where you're hanging out with just the core team and, my son and Brett and I, and, just my core team. We're talking about we're calling them accelerator groups. It's another form of mastermind with a specific goal. So you can build relationships with people these are your fellow podcast listeners who listen every week to this show. But there's a business opportunity there. And I'm learning how to do these things from my friend Aaron. I'm going through this course. It's a fantastic course. I know our mutual friend Ray Edwards went through it recently, and he was saying that he's been through probably hundreds of courses. He called it, what did he say, the best course he's ever been through?
That's what he said.
That speaks very highly for the time, effort, and energy. And I know you don't do anything at a B grade level. You go for big A plus, right? And you nailed it on this. The content is phenomenal because I'm a student of internet marketing and leadership. I'm reading 4 or 5 books a month. But when I start going through your content, your heart's there. And I think that showed today in this episode. I think people feel like they could walk up to you in an event and know who you are, where you've come from. You've been vulnerable. You've put that into this content. And the reason I thought that this episode would do well for this audience is because we talk all the time, Big A. I don't know if you've heard me say it or not, but I really have no need for fans and followers. It doesn't do anything for me if I saw a t-shirt one day and like, hey, I love Silent Sales Machine Radio. I'm like, okay, but I want you to have your own podcast. I want you to be out there leading. I want you to be out there launching your own community. I want you to be in the spotlight on a stage that you built. I want a community of those kinds of people. It's great to look at your listener stats and know people care, but I want to launch leaders. And this is something leaders do. You surround yourself with other people that you can be vulnerable with. You start a mastermind. You go through excellent content like yours, Big A, and you learn this stuff. The link again is silentjim.com/Aaron. He's got all the details laid out. You can see what's in the course. And this is for people who are thinking about starting their own mastermind. And then you can be a part of, you have a couple live events, you said, per year. How many people were at your last event? Just give us an idea.
Well, the live events that we do are for our mastermind members. And here's what's really cool. It's like we have 150 men in 15 different groups. We had 125 of them from 9 different countries show up. So we had a 90% attendance. This is our 10th event that we've done. And every year, our percentage of attendance increases. It doesn't decrease. And it's because they're getting value, right? That's right. Jim, you said something that I think is so important, and different people are at different stages in their business, and I get that. And we all need to make money and do things for our family, and I get that. But nothing excites me more than for somebody to be in our organization and I help them be successful. A guy recently joined our group, and he said, I've got to tell you, there's a caveat in me joining your group. And I said, okay, what is it? He said, the only reason I'm joining is that I want to learn exactly what you're doing. He said, I want to coach and I want to do the mastermind groups. And I just really want to learn what you're doing. I said, praise the Lord. Come on. I'll teach you everything I know. And he said, are you kidding me? I said, why would I not? Why would I not teach you? Listen, he was our biggest cheerleader. He was the biggest advocate that we had. He could not believe. Listen, guys, we've got to share our cards. We can't hold them close to the vest. If you really want to grow, have an abundance mindset, teach and show and share and help other people be successful, and you too will be very successful.
Yeah, it comes back to you in big ways. That's a lesson one of my mentors told me at the point I was bouncing him off. I was a little frustrated. I said, I feel like I'm just spending my time and energy training my competitors how to go out there and beat me in the marketplace. And he said, no, you're not. He said, that's a scarcity mindset talking
Yep.
right now. He said, you've got to decide which is bigger, the man or the mission. And once you're ready to commit to the mission is bigger, you go out there and you help and you serve, and yeah, charge money for your time and create great resources. But if you end up with creating some competitors along the way, they're going to give you credit if they're good people. And if they're not good people, no one's going to want to work with them. So
they're not going to last long anyway if they're not a good person, right? They're going to wither away.
And that's one of the truths of business. It took me a while to learn. The bad guys flame out. They go away.
Sure.
So if all I know about you is you've run a successful, profitable business for about, several years, I know a lot about you.
Yeah.
I know you've got some good things going on internally, right? Okay, so there's a couple different things going on here. And we'll put all these links and resources in the show notes today for the listeners. But one thing I don't want to miss is if someone's saying, hey, Aaron, I want to get into your mastermind. I want to be a part of one of these groups. How do they do that?
Yeah, the easiest way is to go to viewfromthetop.com and fill out an application there. Here's what I want you to do, though. I want you to do your own due diligence. I want you to really research. Don't take it just at face value of me saying, I want you to get online and really Google Aaron Walker, listen to a lot of my interviews, call the people that have been involved in our groups. We'll give you references. If you're a person of faith, I want you to pray about it, think about it, talk to your wife or husband, whoever it is, because it's a long-term commitment that we're wanting you to do to get the long-term results. We're not looking for people to get in, stay a month or two, get what they can and leave. That's not who I'm looking for. We've had people in the same group, Jim, now for 5 and 6 years. We've had the same guys meeting in our groups, and people say, wow, that's a long time. Well, why would you leave when your businesses are growing exponentially? You're growing personally exponentially, your relationships are better. Why would you want to leave? Because these are the people. We've had people now going in business together. 2 guys that joined a year ago didn't even know each other, and they just bought a $3 million piece of property together. They're starting businesses everywhere. It's amazing. It's a community that we've built. So women, we have that for women also. Iron sharpens iron for women, and we have it for men also. We're just launching Emerging Man, 20 to 25-year-old men. Listen, do you only know what my life could be today if I'd been in a mastermind group when I was 20 years old? I can only imagine. And so we're starting a group for emerging men also. So men, women, or emerging men, we can help.
I love it. And View from the Top, a fantastic book. Do you have a copy handy you can show people? Viewfromthetop.com. I don't know if you got a copy. I don't have one within arm's reach. You sent me a nice signed copy. There it is. Fantastic book, guys. If you want to get into this guy's head a little more and hear from his heart, great book. Pick up a copy. But I think we gave people some really good content today. We challenged them, and there's some leaders listening who are thinking, yeah, I need to start a mastermind, or maybe thinking I need to be a part of one. We gave you some great resources. And know this as well, since we're on the topic of masterminds, we've got some cool mastermind things launched in this community. Come to The Proven Conference. TheProvenConference.com has all the details in July. And Aaron, if you can make it down, buddy, I know you've been to one of our events before. I'd love to have you down there again. And say hey to everybody.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
It's on me, buddy. Just come on down. Bring whoever you want to bring, and you'll be awesome. Yes.
Thank you. I'll certainly try to make that. We'll talk more about it offline. I'd love to come.
That'd be beautiful. But we'll be making some big announcements between now and that July event on the masterminds for our community as well. So lots of ways for you. Stop being a lone wolf. If we had to sum this episode up into a 15-second soundbite, it'd be stop being a lone wolf. If you're trying to do life alone, you're going to flame out. You're going to crash and burn. You can't do it that way. You need a group of people that can ask you those hard questions. And that takes time to earn the right to ask those hard questions. You need to be a part of a group like that. And Aaron and I are kind of here to push you in that direction if you don't have it yet. Hey, buddy, any closing comments or final thoughts before we land this plane?
The thing is develop a mindset of can do, not can't. My mom said when I was a child, can't, couldn't do it, and could did it all. And stop being so afraid. Fear missing an opportunity more than you fear failure, and you be successful and significant in your life as well. Jim, I enjoyed hanging out with you, buddy.
You're a valued friend and partner and brother in Christ. And man, I sure appreciate you, my friend. And to all the listeners who hung out with us a little bit today, thanks for hanging out while Aaron and I had a good old time just getting caught up and sharing some stories. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. I'm sure you did. Good content today. We'll have another good episode for you real soon. So God bless all the business building warriors out there, making it happen every day. We're in your corner. We're here for you. We're here with you. Hey, if you don't have an online group yet where you can kind of hang out, our Facebook group, there'll be a link in the show notes. There's 55,000 plus people in there every day encouraging each other. Now, it's not a replacement for a mastermind group, as we learned today, but it's a great step in the right direction to start to surround yourself with people who are thinking and doing life the right way. All right. God bless you guys. Have another episode real soon. Thanks, Big A.